Hey guys, Greg here on the Vinyl Rundown. Today I want to talk about my most valuable albums. I went through Discogs. I got 3,000 records in the Discogs database, sorted them by price, and came up with a list of the top most valuable records. And the first time I sorted the list, I realized that more than half of those records were jazz records. So I split that up into two videos. There's a jazz, most valuable jazz record. This is most valuable everything else, which is really just rock, with one or two surprises. Now, I hope you're using Discogs to catalog your vinyl records. It's a great way to input the information quickly because it has a complete database of all the pressings and all the release dates and all the tracks and blah blah blah, and you can use it for insurance purposes and for shopping purposes and to do all kinds of great database stuff like this. So, and they track three prices on Discogs. And these are all based on actual sale prices that were transacted on Discogs. Discogs sells, I think, more records than eBay does. And I've sold or bought a lot of records from Discogs over the years. Anyway, the way they track their prices is they take the minimum price that it ever sold for, the maximum price, and the median price, which is kind of like the middle, the 50%. Halfway in the middle. So I sorted it by median, and I'm going to report the median and the high prices on some of these. Okay, so let's get into my top 10 or so most valuable rock or pop records. Are you ready? Stay tuned. Here we go. You're going to look at this record and say, why is that so valuable? The Police, Synchronicity, 1983. Well, this is a variant cover. This is the black and white cover. No color. If you have the regular cover on this, it's got streaks of red, blue, and yellow, and they made a number of variants. My wife is a huge Police collector, like a completist, I would say, so she has a bunch of these. The median value on this is $150, some going as high as $180. And cool cover with a lot of different, montage of photos there. And this had the hits on it. Synchronicity, King of Pain, Wrapped Around Your Finger, Every Breath You Take. Okay. Ready for the number 2 record? Hang on tight, because you're going to be surprised when you see it. What? Synchronicity again. The gold version. And that one goes for 106 median, but 360 on the high end. And this hasn't been played very much, because she has 4, 5, 6 copies of Synchronicity. She's got the Japanese and the domestic and the UK and the remix. She's a big Police fan, if you didn't figure that out by now. So, coming in at number 2.5, depends how you do the math. Very valuable record. Nick Drake, Pink Moon. So the median price on that is 107 and the maximum price is 216. So you could argue it's number 2 or 3, but I wanted to keep the Police together for your convenience. Nick Drake, the great singer-songwriter, a very troubled young man from England, and wrote some very emotional songs, but he died. I think he was 25, 26 years old, something like this. This record was my dad's copy that he had sitting on his shelf for 40 years, since this came out in 1972. This is a promo that was given to him by somebody in the record industry. We didn't know who Nick Drake was. It sat on the shelf. I thought, that's a wacky cover. Decades later, Nick Drake became more well known to me anyway. And I was out there visiting him. He said, take whatever you want. I took Nick Drake. Great cover, great art. And Nick Drake left us too soon. Very troubled young man. Suffered from depression. I don't know if he used drugs as well, but definitely a depression problem. Okay, so you've heard about my wife being a huge Police fan. If you watch my videos, you know she's also a huge Wilco fan. And this is a band that Chef Tweedy had before Wilco called Uncle Tupelo. This record's called Anodyne. And this record came out in 2010, I believe. And the median price is 80 and the high price is 125. You can barely see a very young Jeff Tweedy. Did I say Nick Tweedy? Jeff Tweedy. You know who I'm talking about. All those cool guitars. And I hate to admit this, guys, but I got this at the Goodwill for $1.99. and squirreled it away as a Christmas present for her. So, very cool. Wait a minute, this says 1993, and this says 2010 reissue. So what do I have here? Do I have a reissue? Is this worth more or less? I don't know. We may have a problem. But you'd think the original would be worth more than the reissue. We'll have to do some more research on this, guys. This says Sire Reprise. This sounds like it's original. You know what? I probably entered it into the system wrong. This might be worth more because it's the original. Okay. Who's this guy? Coming in at number 5 or 6. Where are we here? Paul Weller. Paul Weller, singer-songwriter for The Jam and the Style Council, and more recently, 2008, he did an album called 22 Dreams, double record set. This again is a present for my wife, so I don't know the music that well, but we certainly love Paul Weller's singing, songwriting with The Jam. What's in here? A booklet? I don't know what's in here. Some kind of booklet? Yeah, booklet, lyrics, nice photograph. Put it away, Greg. Don't make a mess. Very heavy-duty, thick record. Doesn't the art here look like it's the same guy who did a Prince album cover? Looks like the same artist to me. I don't know who that is. I got this at a little record store on Santa Monica Boulevard called Touch Vinyl, right next to the New Art Theater, which is now out of business. And I'm sorry, I didn't think they'd last that long. You walk into a record store and it has a $4,000 VPI turntable. You're not thinking like, oh, knock something over. You're not thinking like a businessman if you put a $4,000 record player in a record store. But okay, so Paul Weller, 22. Keep that in mind because the next record on the list is Paul Westerberg, not 14, not 22, but 14. Isn't that a weird coincidence? Paul W. followed by Paul W. Paul Westerberg, the singer-songwriter of The Replacements, who you all know and love. And this record is called 14 Songs. Came out in 2014. Also $80 to $100 plain recordings. It's got this very plain wrap kind of packaging vibe. Love Paul Westerberg. I've only seen him play once with The Replacements here at the, was it the Hollywood Palladium? And a lot of my gatefolds, I never see the insides because I got them stuck in these plastics. But there's a little insert sheet there. So, okay, moving on. This record, it's not rock music and it is going to freak you out a little bit. I hope you don't get too freaked out by the evil eye, the ever-watchful evil eye, the establishment, the Council on Foreign Relations, Washington, D.C., the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, all that stuff. This is actually a spoken word record by John Carradine, the father of the other Carradines. What are their names? I met one of them. There's Robert, there's Keith, and there's David, the one who died under mysterious circumstances. The Kung Fu guy, that's the father. And this is sort of Alex Jones style, heavy-duty conspiracy. And I saw this for a couple bucks at a record store, and I thought, well, that's pretty unusual. And I'm almost seeing it's going for 80 to 120 bucks. Back in the olden days, before the internet, if you wanted to rant about politics, you had to put it on a radio. I mean, on a record. Nowadays, you just do a blog or a video. But that is a cool cover, if you ask me. That eye is watching you. And the New World Order is upon us, so. Alright, half these records aren't even mine. They're my family's, because we all collect records here. Okay, my son's favorite group, and a rare record that he enjoys. Queen, A Night at the Odeon. Queen, 1975 live concert at the Odeon Theatre in London. And this is, did I say it was recorded on Christmas Eve? Double record set live. I think it was broadcast live also. It's got all their hits on it. The Odeon in Hammersmith. The gatefold picture is okay, but it's like the same picture as the front, you know. This was a record store day release. Anyway, Going for $75 to $93. I should put a sleeve on that one. Shouldn't I? Are any of these records mine? All the jazz records are mine. Okay. Another one for my son. Not only is he one of the world's biggest Queen fans, he's one of the world's biggest Devo fans. There's your men from Devo. This is called, what is this called? I should know what this is called. It's written down here. Can you read? Something for Everybody. After a 20-year hiatus, Devo came back with a studio album called Something for Everybody. And they're doing this whole sort of satire or criticism of corporate America. Something for Everybody. That's a corporate slogan. And they used several focus groups to figure out how to make this record. What color should the energy dome be? The focus group said blue. So they made it blue instead of red. And they came out with a record on blue vinyl. And there's an interesting song in here called Don't Shoot, I'm a Man. Very relevant to what's going on in the world with the news. Don't Shoot, I'm a Man, and that has the phrase in it, Don't Tase Me, Bro. And that was a famous incident where a kid was trying to ask John Kerry a question at an event, and he asked John Kerry, I think he asked him, are you a member of the Skull and Bones? And the police, you know, grabbed the guy, roughed him up a little bit, knocked him down, tased him, and he's yelled on the ground, don't tase me, bro, don't tase me, bro. Everybody made fun of that, but it was kind of sad that somebody's exercising their free speech, confronting a politician, and they tase you. So, Devo actually got their start at the shooting at Kent State, where Mark and Jerry went to school together, and they knew the victims. So Devo has always been a political band, but many of you think of them just as a new wave 80s band. Famous Russian model, Natasha something. And this is not necessarily one of their best albums, but it's a good effort for being on hiatus for 20 years. And if you want it, you got to cough up $75 to $99. Okay, what's next? We're near the end, guys. And we might be at 10 or 11 or 12. I always give you something extra. Another present for my wife from Record Store Day. The Garden State, wonderful movie soundtrack. Let's see, this soundtrack, this version came out in 2005. The movie was much earlier. Garden State. What's the name of the guy? Zach Braff was the star and the executive soundtrack producer. He just picked a bunch of songs that he likes. I like the soundtrack a lot. It's probably my favorite soundtrack in terms of compilations of modern tunes. And I learned a lot of bands that I wasn't familiar with before this came out. The Shins, Frau Frau, which is Imogene Heap, Iron and Wine. Nick Drake has a song on here. Colin Hay from Men Down Under has a nice song on here. So, really cool soundtrack. I like the soundtrack better than the movie. The movie's good. The soundtrack is great. And this is, it's on orange vinyl. Trust me, I can't get it out. Record Store Day exclusive. How much is it worth, Greg? You capitalist pig, how much is it worth? $70 to $125. And I only paid 30 something, so good. Okay, guys, that's the end of the rock. There's one more special, strange, weird record none of you have seen, none of you have heard, none of you know this record exists. And it's not a rock record, it's not a pop record, it's kind of a spoken word comedy record. From 1958. This is the Friars Club presents Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. What do they call it? Testimonial dinner. The Friars Club testimonial dinners basically were the roasts, and they evolved into the Comedy Central roasts. But before they were televised, it was just the members of the Friars Club, which is an exclusive club. This is the Beverly Hills Friars Club. The New York Friars Club is more famous, but celebrities would come out. You got to be a celebrity to be a member. They'd have a dinner, and they'd get up and tell jokes about whatever dignitary, actor, comedian that they're paying tribute to that day. It's kind of like being a member of the it's kind of like being admitted to the Comedian Hall of Fame. It's as close as you're going to get when the Friar Club does a roast for you. So there's a bunch of famous comedians on here. You know, everybody from Dean Martin, Milton Berle, George Burns, others. I saw this on eBay yesterday, 2 copies, one for $100 and one for $400. I don't know if it's actually sold for that much, but it is super rare. There is no label. There is no catalog number. Oops, I don't want to show you that side. There's no catalog number because the record was just pressed as a gift to the members of the Friars Club. So I'm guessing they made, you know, 200, 300, 400 copies at the most. So this got this at a thrift store for a couple bucks, $400 on eBay. Oh, the punchline, it's not funny. The thing that's significant about this is one of the performers had a heart attack and died as he stepped off the stage. Gave a great comedy shtick bit, had the whole crowd laughing, had a heart attack, keeled over. People thought he was joking. He wasn't joking. He died that night. And I'm happy to give this record away. The son of the person who died is living in Los Angeles, pretty famous person you've all heard of. I won't mention the names, but if the son of the person who died there is listening, wants this record, I'd be happy to give it to you. I would like to meet you, shake your hand, get a selfie, but I wouldn't charge you or anything. I don't really know if anybody's going to pay $400 for it. I paid a few bucks for it. And that's it, guys. At least that's the list. That's the end of the list. My 10 or 11 or 12 most valuable vinyl records according to Discogs. And I hope you guys are using Discogs. I should do a video about Discogs. By the way, I'm not one of these money collectors. I don't go around buying records because of their value, trying to sell them. I buy what I like. I do buy things that I think are a bargain. I'll try something out that I've never heard if it's a bargain. But that's why I got 3,000 records. I buy a lot of cheap records. These are some of the more expensive ones. But glad to see they've gone up in value. Guys, please consider subscribing to our humble little channel here, the Vinyl Rundown, and let me know your comments. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep those records spinning.